I 36 starred the Abyss in a single run. Unlike my last Abyss video, this isn't really a guide, but you still might find this video helpful, so keep watching to see how Navia and Nilou made version 4.3 of the Abyss a cakewalk. I didn't have a clue as to what enemies I would face, so I decided to play it safe and set up this Navia National team with C6 Bennett, Xingqiu, and Xiangling. For the second half, I chose a Nilou bountiful core team with Nahida, Furina, and Baizhu. I've been farming for Navia's artifact set, and after several thousand resin, this is what I have to show for it. I don't know why, but Genshin always thinks that I want high defense substats. Well, I really don't, but at least I was able to get some crit rate and damage upgrades. Ideally, you want to have a 1 to 2 crit rate to crit damage ratio. So if you have a 100% crit rate, you ideally want at least 200% crit damage. In my case, I should have about 168% crit damage. I can get these stats up, but if I want to use her 4-piece artifact set, this is what I'm stuck with right now. I need to do some more testing, but from my initial observation, 2-piece attack and golden troop artifacts with better substats will deal a bit more damage. I really want to try ditching my geo damage goblet for attack, since I have a very nice attack goblet, and Navia gets a large geo damage bonus from the 4-piece set anyways. But I don't have an attack stance from the new set yet. I'll eventually do an in-depth video on Navia, so get subscribed so you don't miss that. I've been using the 4-star Serpent Spine on Navia, which is one of her best weapons. I did end up getting her weapon, but my luck didn't turn around until just after I cleared this abyss. Now that I've had some time with her weapon, I actually think that Serpent Spine is nearly identical in damage, but it's a bit trickier to use since you should try to maintain 5 wave splitter stacks in order to deal the most damage. Next up is Bennett. He's using a very typical build with 4-piece Noblesse Oblige and Skyward Blade. Whenever I'm not using my resin for a different character, I farm this domain, but I have yet to get any better artifacts for Benny. This setup works pretty well though, but it does leave some damage on the table because Bennett is capable of dealing a decent amount of damage for the few seconds that he is on field. Someone left a comment on one of my other videos that said I should put the sword on Bennett. I basically haven't taken it off him since then. I'm pretty sure the comment was on one of my Ayaka videos. If you like Ayaka, then you should check those out. I'm currently working on a video where I test and rank over 20 cursed Ayaka teams, but those types of videos take a long time to create, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Next up is Xingqiu. He's using his standard build, the 4-piece emblem of Severed Fate. This is another set that I want to fix up because some of these substats are pretty bad, but I suppose they could be worse. My favorite weapon to use on Xingqiu is the new 4-star Battle Pass weapon, Wolfbane. I'm still not entirely sure if the Northwind Wolf effect works while off-field, but either way, having a crit rate weapon is so worth it. This Northwind Wolf effect increases skill and burst damage in addition to increasing their crit rate. This effect can even stack, so if you know more about this weapon, let me know in the comments. I've really been wondering if it works while off-field. I never really know unless it says specifically that it does work off-field. The final piece to this national team puzzle is Xiangling. Currently, this is my ideal build for her. I do have the catch which works really well with 4-piece ESF, but Xingqiu is using my best artifacts for that set. My stats just end up being a lot worse than Xingqiu's, especially if I combine it with the catch. But this setup with the deathmatch, 2-piece ESF, and SR works really well. As for the second half team, I've really been wanting to test Furina in a Nilou bountiful core team. After getting Navia to 90, I finally started to work on Furina again and quickly leveled her up from 80 to 90. Yes, the only reason I finished ranking her up is for this team. If you're unfamiliar with Nilou, when she's in a team comprised solely of Dendro and Hydro units, she can convert all Dendro cores created through the Bloom reaction into bountiful cores. These cores explode nearly instantly and are much more powerful. This damage also scales with Nilou's max HP. Being as it's a Dendro reaction, elemental mastery and character level are also extremely important. Since Furina doesn't apply quite enough Hydro to consistently produce Dendro cores, I need Nilou to help out. So I have a bit of a hybrid build on her with Sypho's Moonlight, 2-piece Tenacity of Millilith, and VG. I tried to pick HP artifacts that have EO EM substats. Next up is Nahida with Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds and 4-piece FPL. This artifact set has been one of my best investments. It greatly increases the damage of a variety of Dendro related reactions. Nahida receives a crit rate bonus based on her EM, and she's capable of dealing a lot of damage on her own, so I'm using this crit damage circlet. Because of her raw Dendro damage, this build ends up dealing at least the same amount of damage as a pure EM build that focuses on bountiful core damage. But my plan was to use Nahida on field as much as possible, so I went the crit route. Furina is the next in this lineup. I really wasn't sure how she would do in this team, but I've used a nearly identical build with Dia in a Virgin team, and it worked extremely well there. So I figured, why not try it out on Furina? I was expecting to have to retry or rebuild at least some of these teams, being as that's what I usually have to do. This build allows Furina's skill to still deal quite a bit of damage in addition to dealing a decent amount of damage through the bountiful cores. Like with Nahida's build, it's likely that a pure EM build would do nearly identical damage, but I haven't tested that out yet. Finally, we have Baizhu. Personally, I think that Baizhu is Furina's best teammate. His healing capabilities are so effortless and effective that he is without a doubt, in my mind, the best healer in the game. I mean, he is a doctor after all. I know that there are plenty of excellent healers out there, but he's the only character that I'm aware of that will heal your entire team with the skill alone. Sure, you can heal your team with Kokumi's skill, but that only heals the active character. There are plenty of healers that restore health to your entire party, but usually that comes from a burst and requires them to stay on field. But if you want to know more about Baizhu, then check out my video on him. Being as I have Nahida in the team, I didn't care too much about not having the recommended 50k HP on Baizhu, so he's using 4-piece Deepwood Memories to shred Dendro resistance. His best weapon is the 4-star prototype Amber, which I recently got to R2. Genshin really doesn't want me to have any billets, or any weapon. It seriously takes me months of grinding to get a single billet. Anyways, other than HP, you need quite a bit of ER on Baizhu. I was able to get his first constellation on his last banner, which gives him an additional charge for his skill. Combined with prototype Amber and an ER Sands, this is nearly a perfect amount of ER for him. If you don't have his C1, then you will most likely need more ER than I have.
Committed to memory. The eternal orbs.
As for the enemies in floor 12, the perpetual mechanical array in the first half of chamber 1 in floor 12 is easy enough. Just keep an eye out for when it switches into defense mode. You want to destroy the highlighted Ruin Sentinel in order to finish attacking this boss. The Thunder manifestation in the second half is pretty weak to Dendro. Just watch out for its Thunder Wall attack. If you can't tank it like Nilou, then you should quickly exit this death trap. If you have enough HP, you can run through one of the walls before they close together. You'll still take quite a bit of damage, but not near as much as if you try to tank both walls when they collide. In the first half of Chamber 2, you might want to have an Uchiha-aligned character in the party to disrupt the Construction Specialist mech's attacks. A character with a bow can be helpful against the Ruin Guard and Greater, but you can get away without one. The second half is filled with Geo-monsters, so having a character that can quickly destroy their shields is recommended. Nilou's Bountiful Cores did a surprisingly well job in here. The final chamber is the most difficult. The Hydrotolpa has a lot of HP, so if you also use a national team, you might want to swap out Xingqiu for someone else here. Official Baido, a Dendro, Cryo, or another Pyro character are great options. Xiangling did most of the heavy lifting for me, so after my one brain cell started working, I stopped using Xingqiu for this battle. After about halfway through, I kept anticipating it moving around, so I held off using Bennett's burst. It actually stayed in one place much longer than it usually does in the overworld for me, so I recommend not holding back like I did. It ended up costing me quite a bit of time. Also keep an eye out for the half Tulpas it spawns. If it absorbs them, the Spiral Abyss version of the boss receives a 45% all damage resistance, and its AoE and damage dealt are increased for 2 attacks. I learned this the hard way. At the end of the battle, it was taking a lot of damage and even took out Navia. Luckily, it was nearly dead, so Xiangling finished it off. In the last part of the Abyss, you'll fight 2 Electro Law followed by a Pyro Eremite Lore Master and a Dendro Eremite Ring Dancer. The Law Trolls can be pretty annoying to fight because they like to run and jump everywhere sometimes. Luckily, this Nilou team doesn't have to do much once everyone's skill is active. I was able to iframe and bypass a lot of their strong attacks. For the uninitiated, iframe is short for invincibility frame. Whenever a character has a burst animation, they are immune to damage during the animation, so you can use this trick to avoid enemy attacks. As for the Eremites, you'll want to try to group them up unless you're using a similar Nilou team. It's also important to take out their pets once they're summoned. This will stun and weaken the Eremites temporarily. Then all you have to do is finish them off. Unfortunately, I don't have many other tips this time around, but if you're able to build similar enough teams, then you shouldn't have many issues in this abyss. Let me know in the comments how you did in this abyss. If you like this video, leaving a comment is the best way to show the YouTube algorithm that people like to watch my content. I seriously appreciate you for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and check out some of my other content. You can click one of the videos on screen or check out my channel page. Thank you for being so awesome. Sub.